Yes, Asians, whether they're from Japan, China or India, they're no longer people of colour or minorities because, well, they don't fit the narrative. They do a little too well academically. They do very well in their income brackets. And, yeah, Washington State School District is no longer categorising them as minorities or people of colour, because it challenges the narrative that if you're a person of colour, you are automatically oppressed and going to struggle at school. I mean, they just keep changing the goalposts, don't they? If something doesn't fit their ideology, they just change the definition.
James?
Well, I mean, I think Rita has summed it up completely. How is it that we have to live in this world now where we no longer are allowed to say the things that we see in front of us, and yet instead we're told to be complicit in this whole regime now that says, well, no, that person was a person of color today, but they're not a person of color tomorrow or today or yesterday. It is, absolutely straight out of Orwell. I know Orwell's name is used far too much these days, but this is absolutely what it is. This is 2 + 2 = 5 nonsense, and the problem is they make people complicit in it, and the more people just go along to get along with saying this sort of thing, the more the bad guys win.
Exactly. Now, Lawrence Fox, who we often have on this show, has put out a tweet about Bristol, University of Bristol, where, James, interesting lessons or interesting things you can learn there.
This is exactly what I was talking about. This is how they are telling you not to see what's in front of your own face. And according to this, there's a sign now in the bathrooms there at the University of Bristol that read, and I quote, "If you're in a public bathroom and you think a stranger's gender doesn't match the sign on the door, follow these steps. 1, don't worry about it. They know better than you." And that's it. So you're just being told to not accept what's, you actually see, and you're being told to just go along with, whatever the sign says. It's just this republic of lies that they're developing.
And it's a little butterfly with
James,
an LGBTI thing, Rita, so we know who's behind it. So tell us your thoughts on it.
Well, I just think it's a really quite a dangerous message, potentially dangerous message for young women and girls, to basically be telling them, don't complain, shut up, don't trust your instinct, don't trust your fears, you're in the wrong and you shouldn't speak up. And I think that's a really dangerous message to send to young women, to not trust their instincts. And if you know something doesn't feel right and your fear instinct kicks in, I always say trust that, because your personal safety is paramount.
And you're right, this is encouraging young girls to not be careful. It's the most dangerous and extraordinary stuff. And I imagine that signs like that are also a little bit of a kind of an advertisement to whatever weirdo perverts are out there to start wandering into whatever dunnies they stumble across. James, reparations, this is back onto your identity politics. Latinos now should get reparations, apparently. This is in California, the Democratic heartland. UCLA professor.
Where else but, of course, at UCLA, and they say that, well, hang on, we've got the reparations here for African Americans. That's already been put on the table. But, as with every single sort of, identity politics grievance, you suddenly have to start minting more of it and creating more and more categories. So now they're thinking, well, why not have grievances and reparations even for Latino Americans? And they said that those reparations could be in the form of amnesty or asylum and immigration or other sorts of measures. But basically, again, this is this whole identity politics things, guys. It is cutting people up and dividing them not by their inherent worth as individuals, but their worth as a member of a group. And that is where your victim status, which all benefits flow from in this new intersectional victimhood world that I'm afraid Joe Biden and the Democrats and the left around the world is trying to impose on us. Well, that's the currency, victimhood, and they're going to mint it for the Latinos and they're going to mint it for African Americans. But if you're a straight white male, of course, you're out of luck.
Well, also in California,
No. Well, they've already... I was just going to say, Rowan, quickly, they've already recategorised Asians because they don't fit the narrative. And don't be surprised if Hispanics, Latinos are out of favour quickly as well with the woke crowd, because we saw in the last election there was a massive shift to Trump amongst Hispanic voters. And if you actually look at where that happened, it was quite often in those border states, Texas and the like, where illegal immigration is an issue. And not surprisingly, Hispanics who are there legally aren't fans of illegal immigration. It's not a racial issue, it's a legal issue. And those voters, there was a massive shift amongst them to Trump, whilst white college-educated voters shifted to Biden. So there has been this demographic change, and I think the Latinos might be kicked out along with the Asians from the woke crowd. We'll all be out soon.
I think we can go one step further. I think we can assume from the knowledge we've gleaned from our friends Benji Irby and Shemeka and others and Candace Owens that, you know, maybe in another 4 years, because Trump saw a massive surge in the black vote, maybe next time round blacks won't be people of colour either. So they'll be excluded.
Rowan.
Sorry, James.
No, Rowan and Rita, though, I mean, isn't this the fantastic just culmination of this great realignment in politics? You know, it used to be that the Republicans were the party of the rich white guys in the suburbs, and now that's totally turning around. The Democrats are going to be the party that just has left the college-educated, suburbanite white voters and the really rich capitalists and the billionaires, and, you know, all the working-class folks of all races, the Latinos, the African-Americans, everybody else is going to say, hey, we're going to go with the Republicans because they're going to treat us as individuals and not, you know, make us cogs in this great machine of intersectionality.
Well, here's a nice irony for you also in California, in Burbank. Schools in Burbank will no longer be able to teach classic novels such as To Kill a Mockingbird, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, Theodore Taylor's The Cay, Milford D. Taylor's Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. All of these are now racist, and several of which made great Hollywood movies, which were probably filmed in Burbank. But anyway, those kids will no longer be allowed to read those books. But